In our quantum journey, there are moments when we too seem to experience quantum leaps. After all, aren't we made of particles as well? With this video, we make our very first leap, and together we embark on a journey back to the 19th century. On this journey, I will tell you a fascinating story. The story of one of the most extraordinary minds in history. Now, picture everything that defines the 20th and 21st centuries. The arrival of machines into our lives. The washing machines and dishwashers in our homes, factories. Everything that shapes our present and our future. All of it. Because today I'm going to tell you about the man who sparked it all. The man who completely transformed our understanding of matter, nature, abundance, electricity, and magnetism. Michael Faraday. Beyond all his achievements, his life story alone stands as a powerful example for all of us. One that can truly inspire younger generations. Because he started from nothing, quite literally. From nothing in every sense. And for that reason, before diving into the technical details, let's take a look at where Michael Faraday came from. Born in London in 1791, Faraday grew up in a very poor family. His father worked as a blacksmith's assistant, and the family struggled just to survive. When Faraday reached school age, he began his education. But he wasn't particularly successful in his studies, and at the same time, he had to work to earn money. Worse still, his teachers did not treat him kindly because he was a slow learner. And so, before he could even complete his basic education, he was forced to leave school. At first glance, this may seem like a tragic moment. But in reality, it would become the beginning of something extraordinary for Faraday and for all of humanity. After leaving school, he began working in various jobs. And when he turned 14, he started an apprenticeship under George Rebow, a bookbinder and bookstore owner. In the early 1800s, a young boy starting work in a bookstore just to earn a little money, would go on to change the course of human history, and that wouldn't be an exaggeration. While binding books, Michael Faraday began to read them as well. First a sentence, then a paragraph, and before long he became almost addicted to reading. Every book that came into his hands, he would bind it first, and then read it, whatever he could find. He simply couldn't stop. History, alchemy, literature, poetry. But the fields that fascinated him the most were physics and chemistry. The more he read, the more his curiosity grew. And the more his curiosity grew, the more he read. Two books in particular became turning points in his life. The Improvement of the Mind by Isaac Watts, and Conversations on Chemistry by Jane Marcet. The first book emphasized the importance of critical thinking and the necessity of questioning. Faraday read it over and over again, and applied what he learned to his own life. The second book explained chemical experiments in a simple and accessible way. Faraday was so deeply inspired that, despite his limited resources, he began conducting experiments on his own. For nearly 7 years, he worked in the bookshop, and during that time, he read countless books. But his life would change, with a single ticket given to him by a customer. It was a ticket to a lecture in London, Chemistry Lectures by Humphrey Davy. At the time, these lectures were almost like entertainment. People came to watch the experiments. But for Faraday, This was something far greater. There was just one problem. Faraday was not a gentleman. His clothes weren't good enough. Because of this, people looked at him strangely. Some even excluded him, but he still attended. Because his curiosity was greater than all of those obstacles, he attended every single lecture, and he carefully wrote down everything that Humphrey Davy said. Then he combined those notes with his own thoughts and turned them into a 300-page book. Just think about it. A boy who couldn't even finish elementary school, who was labeled a slow learner, teaching himself science, taking notes, and turning them into a book without expecting anything in return. And then he sent that book to Humphrey Davy. At that very moment, Humphrey Davy was injured during an experiment and was temporarily unable to work. He was looking for an assistant. Having seen Faraday's book, Davy called him in and offered him a temporary position as his assistant. Faraday did not miss this opportunity. Shortly after, when Davy's assistant was dismissed, Faraday was offered a permanent position. He was now working at the Royal Institution. He was now doing science, and he was only 21 years old. Not long after, he traveled across Europe with Davy. During this journey, he met some of the greatest scientific minds of the time, André-Marie Ampère and Alessandro Volta. But life was still not easy. Davy's wife looked down on Faraday and treated him with contempt. At times, Faraday even considered giving up everything. But his passion for science was stronger. At the time, everyone was studying electricity, but no one truly understood its power. Until Hans Christian Ørsted discovered that an electric current could affect a compass needle. This discovery revealed something extraordinary. Electricity was not just a flow. It also created a field of influence. Michael Faraday took this idea and pushed it further. He discovered that electricity creates a magnetic field, and through his experiments, he showed that this field had a circular structure. And then, he built the first electric motor in history. It was the transformation of electrical energy into mechanical energy. But his greatest breakthrough came in 1831. Faraday succeeded in generating a continuous electric current. The first dynamo was born, and this discovery is the very foundation of all the electrical systems we use today. Power plants, generators, transformers, all of them were built upon the foundations laid by Michael Faraday. But Faraday didn't stop there. He discovered the laws of electrolysis, liquefied gases, discovered benzene, and invented the Faraday cage. And perhaps most importantly, he proposed that light is an electromagnetic wave. But he couldn't prove it, because Faraday was an experimental mind. He wasn't as strong when it came to theory. And right at that moment, another genius stepped onto the stage, James Clerk Maxwell. Maxwell took Faraday's ideas and proved them mathematically, changing the world forever. And that is why today, when we talk about quantum physics, time travel, or string theory, the foundation was laid right here. These stories are not separate. They are all connected like links in a great chain, and we are following that chain step by step. Our journey continues. Don't go anywhere. And as always, until we meet again, I'm glad you're here. With love.